Hi, it's Anne-Marie from Charmed Life Therapy. I'm back with another catch-up. Sometimes I feel like all of us are we're rapidly trying to create content and always kind of slightly behind what the narrative and what's going on. So it's been a bumpy couple of days, I would guess, for anybody that's pro Justin, Team Justin. So I kind of feel like I'm here to be a bit of an emotional support animal for everybody kind of that is a genuine survivor, someone who's genuinely been hurt, someone who's been on the receiving end of narcissistic abuse, because I think it must be, really difficult for people out there with those backgrounds to see this playing out in real time, because it's almost like a car crash, isn't it? You don't want to look, but you look anyway, even if like it's kind of gory, and that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life. We've all got I never thought I'd be on part 34 of this thing, you know what I mean? I just thought it was going to go away within a week or so. I just thought it was an interesting news item to expound on for a video or two. So yeah, so if you're Team Justin, and what you got to always remember here is what we're seeing is not what's happening really. It's kind of like the difference between what your conscious mind thinks and what your subconscious mind knows. Because when it's a lawsuit, we have to all admit that we're going to take hits on stuff. Nothing is going to all go your way, even if you think you've got righteousness and justiceness on your side. So we kind of have to just roll with that and just hold our nerve. So it would seem, if you were to take it at first face value, it seems like Ryan and Blake are having a lovely time. There was Blake doing, what was it, a group Pilates class on her Instagram with all these influential influencers, that's how you call them. And promoting her new hair mist. You don't need to have a shower when you've done hot Pilates. You just spray yourself all over with one of Blake Brown's hair mists. So it kind of makes you look like, oh yeah, she's still got a ton of supporters, a ton of influential people, but she's got powerful people in the background setting these things up for her. How many of these people actually know her? And then you've got 14 organisations, is it? Something like that, unless there's been more in the meantime. I think there's about 4 different amicus briefs and all of these organisations between them writing in support of that. And something like 19 different survivors is what I've heard, what I've read, all advocating in a way. Not that necessarily Blake should get to use this 47.1 defence, but just that how the judge treats it in a generalised fashion may have repercussions for all. But what has been interesting is, and I have to credit Elsrich for this, Elsie, if you found Elsie on Instagram and YouTube. I mean, sometimes I have to admit she goes a little bit far for me. But she does make me laugh, and she's really entertaining, and she's really dedicated to this. But I was watching one of her videos the other day, and it was talking about this Elise Dorsey, who is one of these so-called survivors that has written in support of one of these briefs. And if you look into Elise Dorsey's situation, she's actually the person that supposedly she was a victim of has actually been awarded damages against her. And as Elsie pointed out, she actually has a GoFundMe out there. She's basically was wanting people to pay for these damages for her. And I think Elsie was saying it raised about $40,000, and then it stalled for a few years, which is interesting because is she trying to wake up that GoFundMe? Who knows? But basically Elise Dorsey, not saying there wasn't some kind of influence in the beginning, it's college related situation and normal thing. You shouldn't get involved with your tutors, whatever it is, professors. But they had a long running affair, not even really a committed one. It was there and it wasn't for years. She was married, he was married, long-term thing, but she didn't like how it ended. She didn't like that she was cast aside, basically, is the gist of it. Allegedly on my part, but she wants us to take her seriously as a victim. now what's the story? Does she claim that she was conditioned all through all that, that she never had a choice in all of it, that she could never have walked away with dignity or anything like that? This man did everything to her. When you kind of look into that a little bit, it almost reads like Blake's kind of story, in that, not like kind of with the affair thing or anything, but I do think the more we hear now, the more we do, and the more we know of Blake and how she has a tendency to fall for people on movie sets, there is that kind of element. I think many of us feel that Blake was a scorned woman at one point, that, you know, she just had a baby, feeling a bit vulnerable, feeling a bit heavier than she liked. Here's this gorgeous man who's kind, caring, wants to look straight into her eyes in movie scenes. You know, and we see that it was her stepping out of character more than it was him. And we see that she finds it very hard to not be herself when she's a character. So she falls prey to this idea of falling in and out of love on a regular basis, even if it's only in her own imagination. So in a way, she is like an Elise Darcy type person, I guess. If you want to interpret Elise Darcy as a scorn type woman, you might want to look into her for yourself. But it calls into question the legitimacy of the people that are coming up with these briefs, especially when we know that the legal world at that level is a relatively small world, and that everybody knows everybody, and people like Ezra Hudson are on the board of one of the organisations. You know, it's not entirely without bias, is it? It can't possibly be. And then you've got you and Ryan that are, you know, doubling down and happily buying a sailing team together, is it now? And you think, wow, these people are still having a really happy life. And there's Justin over there in Hawaii that can basically been advised or taken it on himself that he doesn't want to take part in any kind of narrative or get anything bigger than it wants to be, whereas on the other side it's, oh, we're all playing jolly hockey sticks over here, we're still buying companies, we're still buying new mansions with extensive grounds, we're still you know, ditching our ex-wife who was 14 years older than us and getting a slightly newer model and parading around town. So yeah, but then you've got to think, well, maybe you and Ryan, they might be needing to diversify a little bit, you know, because the way it's going, even you've taken a significant hit. It'll be interesting to see how his next few movies do, or whether he is going to now have to play Wolverine till he's 99, because it'll be more or less the only part we want to see him play anymore, just out of Wolverine love. And bear in mind too, this business of Ryan's movie has had to be delayed, and apparently it's a different studio now releasing it. So the studio that did have it is saying, oh, we don't want to kind of touch this with a hot poker, or they're a bit worried about it, so somebody else is taking it on, and now it's been delayed at least 7 months. Because the thing is, this thing is called Animal Friends. I don't know a lot about it, but I think it's a mixture of live action and animation, and it's R-rated. So does anybody really at this point in time really want to see Ryan Reynolds doing snarky humour and interacting with animals, saying gross things, which I assume is more or less what it's about, more toilet humour? And I think the majority of us have heard enough of Ryan's toilet humour. I don't know about you now. You, as in you, not you, Jackman. But I don't know about you now, but whenever it pops up on my feed, I'm like, I just can't watch him. I mean, he used to annoy me, but now I'm like, I just can't look at his face for any length of time. And it just highlights more than ever how literally every answer to everything he says has to be rude or a bit gross or borderline acceptable. And what were we doing all those years when we were just accepting it? Or, you know, because I used to sit and watch his interviews and think, is it me? I'm just not finding this funny. And yet, like, you'd have the audience laughing hilariously and all of the media bigging him up, and he was the big thing and all of that. I mean, I think sadly for him, he's losing his looks a little bit, isn't he? But I mean, he was a heartthrob back in the day. He had it all going on. So yeah, it's like it's been a rough few days for us as Team Baldoni, I would say. But we've kind of got to just hold our nerve, because like I said, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. There's been a bit of a ruckus in the last few days over the Leslie Sloane defamation aspect of it. because she's challenging, I guess, like it's all to do with her motion to dismiss and to get out of it and all of that, that they've managed to point out a flaw in Justin's amended complaint. So it's this business of the text messages between Leslie Sloane when she's talking about Melissa Nathan and this James Fatuska at the Daily Mail. So there's a section of the text messages where obviously this James is trying to get further information out of Leslie. Leslie is kind of saying everybody on set hates Justin. And I think James has gone along with kind of that narrative. He's been dealing with Melissa Nathan as well. And it's, the text messages highlight the difference because this PR world is murky, isn't it? We know it is. They kind of have to do kind of dubious things. It's the nature of the game. But you have people like Leslie Sloane, who it seems, frequently is caught in lies and can't particularly be trusted to be telling you the truth, even when she's your source. And then you can kind of get the feeling, you know from the other side of things, like Melissa and Jen, I'm not saying they're perfect, I'm not saying everything they says has been good and holds up, but the overall sense is that they haven't been trying to escalate the thing. There hasn't been this mysterious slur thing. You can see where they've been trying to diffuse things, whereas Leslie Sloane has been pushing a narrative. So she's tried, part of Justin's defamation thing is this thing of she told like news outlets that it was me, that I was acting on set basically like as if I was doing some method acting thing and I was literally being this abusive male character on set and it was getting out of hand and I was pushing that narrative and the movie was going that way. So, Ryan had to step in and rescue the thing. That's kind of their narrative, isn't it? So in these text messages, Leslie's highlighting Melissa Nathan is lying about what, because it's all, nothing to do with Blake. It's all everybody in the cast hated Justin. And so later on, that was in August, I believe, kind of thing. And kind of around that time where they'd got Jen Abel's text, hadn't they? Something like on the 21st of August when they got that phone. And then that same day, I believe, Leslie Sloane texted Melissa Nathan, didn't she, to say, I've got the text, I know what you said, you're going to get sued. So we know she had stuff before the Van Zandt subpoena and all of that. We know they got it immediately. But yeah, it's like later on down the narrative, James Fatuska has been in touch when the CRD came in December, and it's like, there's a string of messages between Leslie Sloane and him where at first it's saying she, in reference to kind of Melissa Nathan and things, there's been a bit of confusion in the language because then there's like been a broader she as in an observer with James Fatuska. Now she's saying that she's been essayed, I think it is essayed or SH'd, whatever it was. But that's like in the broader sense. It's not like a conversation between the two people, as in Leslie Sloane directly said that to James Fatuska. It's in the sense of, in the CRD complaint, she's saying this. So there's been kind of a slight discrepancy in the language, in the text message, in the meaning. And it would appear that Bryan Freedman and team have not pinned James Fatuska down on that and clarified what it meant and who she was in reference to at that point. So it's kind of saying Leslie Sloane never said that Blake said she was SH'd basically. So I didn't defame him. But and so it kind of looks like Justin's defamation suit took a hit there. And it kind of makes you think, oh, is she going to get out of that? But we kind of just need to hold our nerve a bit because, A, we don't know the truth of James Fatuska. We don't know if he was playing both sides. Obviously he's in this world where he needs to work with PR people. He needs to, keep a certain level of connection to them. He has to play the game carefully. So what did he say to Bryan Freedman? Because at the moment we're only seeing a tiny portion of what James Fatuska possibly said to Bryan Freedman or what was put in writing or whatever. All we have is this affidavit now that Leslie Jones's lawyers has added in that is a statement from James Fituska saying he never said basically that Leslie Sloane said Blake said she'd been SH'd. That the language was off basically. But we really, that's what I'm saying about us, that kind of our little hearts drop and all of that, is we kind of just have to hold our nerve because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what Bryan Freedman has in writing. And there are more aspects to the defamation thing, because a big part of that is that they went to the New York Times and they gave them those curated text messages that were taken out of context with the missing emoji and the rest of it. Leslie Sloane was directly involved in that CRD. So we can't lose track of that, and we can't worry too much about that because there's far more going on. And the truth of it all is we're going to take some knocks. I feel like I'm on Team Baldoni. I feel like I should have Bryan Freedman on speed dial. He should listen to me. I'm sure he is listening to a lot of the content creators that are keeping track of it so well. I'm sure they are. But this whole process is so interesting to me because it's not only that, but it's like, it's interesting because it's like I've said before, I look at a lot of what Without a Crystal Ball says, because I find her fight quite good, and it's all like, like I'm often kind of not just listening to what she's saying, I'm watching what is scrolling across the screen, and because it just refreshes what has been put in the filings and the text messages and stuff like that and screenshots. But then I kind of found a running narrative on YouTube that she's kind of questionable, and people question what she does and how she's always busy exposing people. And I guess other people are trying to put across that she's a narcissist. And I just thought, yeah, we should all just keep an open mind. That's what this is telling you. Just keep an open mind. Go inside and find what feels true to you. And I've kind of always said this as a therapist, and when I give out advice, or you read a book by a certain person. I mean, Mel What's the face has been taking a hit recently, hasn't she, for a let them theory, and being called into question. But I always say, don't just listen to everything I say and do everything I say. Take what feels right to you from everybody, and make up your own mind. Use the parts that feel like they're authentic to you, that resonate with you. Come up with your own thing based on everything that you're taking around you. And always trust your gut instinct and stuff like that. So I thought, oh God, you could see how, I mean, it's a bit weird though. I mean, there's whole channels devoted to how bad is Without a Crystal Ball, which is like, oh God, it's like, I can't imagine. Although, I mean, you could say I'm doing that with Blake and Ryan, I guess, but I'm trying not to do it in a snarky way. I'm trying to do it in a way of understanding and what can we take from it, as I've said before. But yeah, what I would also kind of point out to other content creators, because when you're making YouTube videos, you kind of have to have a compelling title basically, and a thumbnail picture. So you do get many people doing like kind of racy kind of headlines that they know people will tap on, even if it's a bit of rage baiting, like it's a pro Blake and Ryan, if it's worded as such as Justin's taken a hit or whatever it is. And that channel might be pro Justin, but they're using taglines that are going to get the clicks. But the thing is, surely my point of view that I thought of yesterday was, yeah, but we kind of have a bit of responsibility here, because if we're doing that, and I must go look at my own titles just in case I don't think I've done it, but if we're putting out like titles, like H1s, if you like, headings that say, Justin Baldoni took a big loss, just because we know people will click on that because they'll panic and say, whoa, what's happened? But we're also kind of upping the SEO, aren't we? The search engine optimization for those kind of things. So when people are kind of searching on Google or whatever, they're going to come up with the negative headlines all the time. Even if it's positive content that's behind it, they might not go and watch the content, but they've just seen what looks like the latest on a search stream, and it might say negative Justin, negative Justin, negative Justin, you know. So we've all got a sense of responsibility here, really, if we are like pro-justice, to kind of be careful about even stuff like that, not go for the click, still hang on to some responsibility for the situation, because we are all responsible for this situation at this point. We're all responsible for what we're putting out there in terms of how we report on it. I'm just going to have a quick look, see if there was anything else. I think that's more or less I was going to say today. But yeah, those are my thoughts. We're into this period now where it's clearly heavily a PR campaign on Blake and Ryan's part. And it looks like an awful lot of positive things are happening for them. It's looking like they're not taking hits in any way. They're doing a very good job of it, I have to say. But just hold your nerve, basically, because we don't know what the subconscious mind of this legal case has in store. We don't really know what's driving the narrative. And I would just remind yourself all the time that Justin's team, I believe, is relatively quiet. And Justin himself is just minding his own business. He's just completely staying out of it, as is everybody else. The only ones making the noise are Blake and Ryan's team. And people make noise when they're worried. You know, people make noise when they're trying to create a diversion, when they're trying to create a narrative and all the rest of it. You know, it's like in your everyday life, those, you know, it's like a comedian, isn't it? You know, you think a comedian is all of these things. Look how wonderful Robin Williams was. You've no idea what they're coping with underneath. And that's kind of, I think, what's playing out a little bit here. There's a certain amount of desperation in all the things that they're doing. So let's just try and hold our nerves and comfort ourselves with that, I think, and see what comes out next. But yeah, it has been kind of a rough couple of days, I would think, where you could kind of get disheartened about the unfairness of it all. And I was having a little conversation with somebody in the comments, and it can be very hard when you're all emotions, and particularly when you are a survivor. You know, the law can feel very unfair, and it can feel very intrusive, and it can feel like it's set up against you as a survivor. So this case is clearly very difficult for some people, and it's kind of, you have to walk that fine line and not surrender to the unfairness of it all, and not fall into victim mentality, in the sense of life can do this to good people. It's like not to fall prey to that, because that's not helpful for you either. But yeah, it's bringing up a lot of stuff for a lot of people, a lot of survivors that have had to produce the medical information and the personal information. And me, I was saying to somebody yesterday, if you looked at my medical records between 12 and my late 30s, God knows what some of the doctors wrote about me during those times, about maybe how difficult I was, or how unsavable maybe I was. God knows what was going on, or how neurotic I was. I'm sure there was all kinds of things written that I wouldn't agree on, you know, with what I know about the situation now. But I was saying to the girl, I better behave myself, really, because if I ever had to produce those medical records for any reason, I'd probably get a really hard time if it came to court. Anyway, that's all that I had to say for today. And thank you. You've got me past 100 subscribers, which isn't much to some people, but it's a lot to me, and hopefully we'll keep growing. Please do hit that like and subscribe and share and drop your comments below, and I always do my best to get back to you. All right, see you later.